He does not understand. He is not loyal to the United States of America. I've said it before, say it again. Trump does not like the United States. He doesn't like our laws. He doesn't like our Constitution. He doesn't like our people. He calls them fat. He calls them poorly educated, slobs.
I would not extend these billionaires' tax cuts, and I would not pay for them by clobbering the middle class and the lower middle class by cutting Medicaid expenses, of which
he said he wasn't going to cut Medicaid.
Go watch the budget that's been submitted. It's already got 600. He said he was going to end the war.
There's nothing about cutting Medicaid in the budget.
Did he say
or not say?
Did he say I'm not? Did he say or not say I'm going to end the Ukraine war?
Bull and you know it.
James Carville didn't suddenly discover Donald Trump this week. He's been warning, dissecting, and flat out filleting Trump's act since 2015. But his most recent TV takedown, equal parts acid wit and hard data, hit a nerve so deep that Trump spent the next news cycle doing what he always does when the mirror shows him something he can't stand. He erupted. If you're new here, hit subscribe and tell me in the comments your first memory of Carville going at Trump. Was it the con man populism line or his early pandemic indictment of Trump's crisis management?
This is, I think, a great time. And you know, we got the pom-pom caucus out there. Yay, team fight. We're going to get them. You actually have a piece of ground that you can fight out. It's a noble piece of ground. All right, you don't have to go to Coachella or somewhere and speak to rallies. You can do it right there, and it's something that people give a shit about.
I'd say, well, first of all, I totally agree with that person. It's very depressing. But if you're doing political strategy, you know, if you have an airplane crash, you got to go back and find out what went wrong. You don't say, well, let's just forget about it and move on. No, was the flap set in the right setting, or, you know, was there something that the pilot didn't pay attention to? I don't know, but it is sort of depressing. But, you know, Michael, there's a simple, basic rule of politics is voters want an election about them. They don't want an election about you or your opponent.
Carville's case against Trump has always been simple enough to fit on a bumper sticker and detailed enough to fill a prosecutor's binder. He argues that Trump is a chaos merchant, not a populist, that the movement is a costume draped over a donor-friendly agenda, and that the danger isn't an isolated tweet, it's a governing style designed to grind institutions down until the only thing that still stands is Trump himself.
Common parlance of the word rape, the jury found that he'd raped this woman. That's a fact. In every sentence ought to be Donald Trump, an adjudicated rapist. Right? This is not normal. And everybody wants to show how in touch they are with the common man. Everybody wants to cover a race. And there's just huge tendency to say, Biden's got a record, he's got a vision. Trump's got a record, he's got a vision. Let's go to post and see what happens. He is in the midst of what I believe, I've said, and continue to believe even strongly every day, we're in the midst of a collapse. And if you look at the markets, if you look at all across the board, the political collapse, the spotting, look what happened in Wisconsin, look what's going on with all of the Musk and the craziness. And what I think if he sees himself going down, he's going to try to take the whole country with him.
Absolutely.
When Carville lays that out on live TV, he doesn't hide behind euphemism. He'll give you the spine of the story, authoritarian vibes, endless grift, performative grievance, and then he nails the receipts to it. Attacks on the press and the DOJ, the tax law that showered benefits up the ladder, the systematic effort to pre-poison any election he fears he could lose. If you've watched him over the years, you know the rhythm. First the drawl, then the dagger.
But what I've said very publicly, Democrats need to play possum. This whole thing is collapsing. It doesn't need Elizabeth Warren and somebody screaming to pacify some progressive advocacy groups in Washington, which, by the way, I wish these people were just useless. They're actually worse than useless, that they're detrimental. And they never, ever learn to shut up. And so, Dan, this is what I believe. I believe that this administration, in less than 30 days, in the midst of a massive collapse, and particularly a collapse in public opinion. Della Volpe at Harvard, who's very good. I used to think, once I saw a Harvard youth poll, I discounted it. I've come to say it's a pretty damn good poll. Pretty good guy. He's gone from 53 approval to under 30 to 39. That's a collapse.
Rewind to the campaign years, when most pundits were still treating Trump like a novelty act. Carville wasn't buying the act even then. On cable hits, he hammered 2 points: character and competence. He said flatly that the candidate's superpower was chaos, not leadership, and that you don't hand nuclear codes to a man who can't manage a staff meeting. After the infamous late October letter that threw 2016 into a tailspin, Carville wasn't shy about calling out the disinformation ecosystem that dragged the country into a fog and let Trump walk through it.
I'll tell you this, more deficit has accumulated under Donald Trump than the other president of American history, but I'm glad that you're on the fiscal responsibility bandwagon. You're reading these polls, and I'm reading the polls saying the Democrats are 13 points up in the congressional generic, that Donald Trump has the lowest approval rating of any president at this point in his presidency in American history. So your viewers are getting one view, and I'm reading another view. So one of us is right and one of us is wrong. I think the Republican Party is against the minimum wage. I think the Republican Party stands for more tax cuts for people making over $400,000 a year. I think the Republican Party wants to get rid of a woman's right to choose. I think the Republican Party wants to destroy Medicaid. I think the Republican Party would like to get rid of Medicare if they possibly can. I think the Republican Party supports Vladimir Putin. I think the Republican Party is weak when it comes to communist China.
I see a lot of Democrats, do support men their rights to play women's sports. And you're not addressing those key issues that are.
It's the key issue. What the High School Athletic Association decides who's eligible to play what sport is the key issue. We're going to continue to help people with health care, with Medicaid and Medicare, or the key issue is that we're going to secure people's retirement security. The key issue is in this century.
Once Trump took office, the warning lights Carville talked about on TV came in like a strobe. He described the authoritarian curious pattern long before it became the consensus description. The daily war on the press, the constant nips at the independence of the Justice Department, the insistence that loyalty to Trump outranked fidelity to law. He called the 2017 tax law exactly what it proved to be, a donor giveaway marketed as blue-collar salvation.
And so one of the things that we know for sure is Donald John Trump stinks. In other words, he smells like shit. There's any number of people who have reported this to us. And of course, everybody heard him fart in the courtroom. And we have extrapolated from that a belief that the reason he stinks so much is he farts and shits in his pants or whatever, juicy farts or something. And I just assumed that we were right, but there's something I brought up that I think requires scientific exploration. And I'm going to tell y'all right up front, I'm not particularly good at physics or engineering or STEM or anything like that. But I think we have to consider the fact, not the fact, we have to consider the possibility. I want to be very careful with my language here.
He mocked the populist cosplay even as the policy punched holes in the safety net. If you watched the interviews, you saw the Carville tactic: use humor to get you listening, facts to keep you there, and then a final turn of the screw so you can't unsee what he just described. By 2019, when Ukraine and impeachment shifted from rumor to record, Carville sharpened the edge. He didn't treat the conduct as a one-off lapse, but as a system, abuse of power as operating system. That's an important distinction.
Because the effect on this, on hospitals, and particularly in rural areas of the country, going to be draconian. Of course, that's where a lot of his voters are. A lot of his voters are on Medicaid. James, why is he doing this to his own people? I'll tell you exactly why. He hates them. He has told you and has told them that they're poorly educated, that they're fat and they're stupid, and all of the other things he says. And it's not that he's indifferent to the suffering of rural people, or even rural whites, if you want to be more specific about it, or people that voted for him. He wants them to suffer. He doesn't like them. He wants to go to the Middle East with his what do you call those two dopes he has as kids? Good God, how'd you like this? They don't care. In fact, not only do they not care,
Plenty of critics scolded Carville diagrammed the method when he said on air that this was how Trump did business: pressure, denial, gaslight, repeat. He was ahead of a lot of the field. Let me know in the comments if you think that framing helped you decode the next years, because it certainly made sense of what followed. Then came the pandemic, and any polite fiction about unconventional leadership collapsed under the weight of reality. Carville's verdict was brutal.
And all we need to do, the analogy I use, is picket is 500 yards from the stone wall. Hold your fire. It's gonna be easy pickings here in 6 weeks. Just lay back.
So you literally think 30 days to 6 weeks, the Trump administration is effectively going to collapse in terms of public support?
Well, it's collapsing right now. We're in the midst of a collapse. This is the lowest approval, not even close, that any president has ever had at a comparable time. Again, that's a provable fact. So they're not going to be able to get a debt extension. That's pretty clear. I don't think they're going to be able to pass reconciliation, but I'm not sure. But they're going to have to go to Hakeem. And that is going to be the equivalent of stacking arms. It's over. We can't go without you. And I think the House Democrats, and this is going to shock a lot of people, I think they know exactly what they're doing, and they know exactly what's going to happen. And I've never been a sick fan. I think Democrats make a lot of mistakes, but I think these guys know what's coming and they know how they're going to handle it. And Mike Johnson's going to have no other choice. He's going to have to go. And when he does, that's surrender.
You cannot crisis manage a virus with vibes. The pressers weren't policy, the bragging wasn't a plan. He called it deadly incompetence. And while many tried to grade Trump on a strange curve, he's doing it his way, Carville refused. He said plainly that real lives were on the line, and that the White House's messaging circus was not clever, it was catastrophic. It's one thing to riff on a news day, it's another to hold that line week after week while the talking points shift like sand.
he has affection for dictators. He has affection for authoritarianism. And you're so correct to be concerned about this, and it's getting worse by the day, and it's not going to stop getting worse. And we had to be a high alert. For he's going to try anything he can, and to help himself, of course. But I believe the man genuinely, fundamentally wants to hurt the country.
Yeah, no, I think you're right.
JD Vance. He's consolidating everything.
Yeah.
I just don't see. I just don't see. He's ingratiated himself to all of these, internal groups. He's a person of some. It's not my cup of tea, but he's obviously a person of considerable ambition and talent, and he's plotting his course. I don't see anybody that's going to be able to, unless Trump were to blow up at him or something like that would happen. I don't know, but I don't see that. It's really hard to see him not being a nominee in 2028. It would take
Interesting.
Carville did, and he backed it with the grim arithmetic families were living through. The 2020 campaign brought another layer: Trump's obsession with preemptively discrediting any result he didn't like. Carville rang that bell early. He kept telling audiences this wasn't bluster, it was strategy. Make mail voting sound suspect, scream fraud, then insist only one outcome is legitimate. When November turned to January and the world watched the Capitol overrun, Carville didn't hedge, insider-in-chief.
A smart observer took some pictures of his hand. We're posting it so you can see the discoloration, and you're further going to see something interesting. You're going to see a shitty attempt at makeup to try to hide this. Now, if you're suffering and a medical diagnosis, but if this is the condition that you have, you can cover up
skin discoloration with makeup. And you're not being served by a commentariat that basically has one thumb up its ass and one thumb in its mouth and is switching every fucking 30 seconds. Go do your job. Find out what's going on with his hand. Find out what's going on with his capacity. Have people look at his slurred language. Have people look at the deterioration that's going on right now, and the madness, and the corruption, and all of the other shit that's going on. Whoa, rah, rah, Johnny come marching home together. We're gonna bomb this, bunker bomber, atomic bombs, blow, bomb. And then listen to what the fucking idiots say on TV. Well, what about the Democrats? They only got a disapproval rating, and the whole thing, and we're in a state of collapse, and this and that, and let's have a panel discussion, and we're going to have a regression analysis, and we're going to do all that. And the fuck are you talking about? And don't worry about having a panel discussion about the Democrats. What are they going to do? Look at what's right in front of you. What's right in front of you. And I think there is sufficient reason to marshal resources and together to see what the hell's going on here, which may be even caused by underlying, what do you call it, syphilitic? I don't know what the fuck the medical word for it is. In other words, he may have the clot. And I think this is, because, and we had the No Kings, which is the largest thing. And, maybe we should have no syphilis rallies.
Not because the word would trend, but because it matched the evidence of your own eyes. He also warned that any party unwilling to repudiate that would stay trapped inside the cult of personality. Many Republicans have spent 3 years proving him right. Midterms usually give the out party a wind at their back. Carville argued throughout 2022 that Trump's grip was a headwind instead. He called it a candidate quality problem born of loyalty tests and grievance gospel. That wasn't a partisan taunt, it was analysis that turned out to predict a lot of races.
Do you see a line crossed here, and what is the way for your party to deal with it?
Well, so many lines have been crossed, so many lines have been erased. I don't even know if there are any lines left. For me, and this is my personal opinion, I think they went after her, and I think her race has something to do with it. I'll just flat out say that.
You're of the view, and it's my job. I'll let you finish. It's my job, James. Yeah, no, but it's my job to ask you to substantiate it. But you're of the view. You're of the view. Well, I'll let you finish. You're of the view that you're asserting that the Trump administration or DOJ is targeting her racially. Why do you assert that?
Because that's what they're about. And they're trying to show it's us against them. They talk about the blood of America and the poisoning of blood. And they talk about this kind of stuff. Again, let me be very clear. I don't have any proof, but if you ask me, do I think that's what happened? Yes, I think that's what happened. I think if it was a white congressperson, they would not have arrested her.
No, you can't. You can't say it's in the budget. There's a Medicaid cut when there isn't.
Excuse me for speaking while you interrupted me.
I am. This is ridiculous. And he does it every night.
Can I make a point?
Yes, go ahead.
He was going to end the Ukraine war on day one.
Oh, come on. It's absurd. What did Biden do for 4 years in there? Nothing. This drive me nuts.
He said he was going in the Ukraine war.
Can't tell by your demeanor.
Please fact check me. Somebody look it up on your cell phone. Did Trump say I'm going to end the Ukraine war on day one?
And I was going to wear an LSU T-shirt, but I'm not now.
You don't have to.
Can I ask a quick question?
We'll get over it.
You got to fight to get into this. I'm not going to make. You got to get in.
When the famous red wave fizzled, you could hear the Carville framework echo through postmortems on both sides. The drama that feeds the base can starve a coalition. You don't need to like Carville to admit he had that one pegged. If you follow his podcast, you know the indictment era brought out another familiar Carville theme. Accountability delayed is impunity granted. He insists on saying, criminal defendant Donald Trump, not to dunk, but to normalize the truth that no one should be above the law.
Don't forget, Rod, Trump is a criminal. Criminals like to be around other criminals.
And a mob boss.
Yeah. So Bannon is right. We are flooded in shit. And we are searching for a way to deal with this. These are extraordinarily difficult times. And he just keeps moving with one stupid thing after another. Maybe some of our, well, I'm struggling here a little bit, so maybe some of our really smart viewers can help us untangle a little bit. It's really tangled now because no one knows where to land. It's all too incomprehensible. We're getting overwhelmed. And things that we thought that would kill a political career, that would be poisonous for whatever reason, this guy keeps trucking along.
Give a big shit about it. And they know what it means. They don't know what an oligarch is, but they know what a veteran is. They know what a suicide is. They know what an obligation is. They know what a country is. And I would ask my friends on the progressive side of the equation or whatever it is, this is something that we can join together in. This is a fight that we can fight together. This is an important fight because it says so much about us as a nation, and it has the potential of saying so much about us as a political party and the real potential of saying so much about them as a political party. We want to talk about values. What higher value you have than the contract that a nation makes with its veterans? That's a value. That's a value that we ought to all stand together in. We ought to take this thing and ram it home. Ram it home. Ram it home.
He goes after the corruption, yes, but always loops back to the institutional risk. When a frontrunner treats the legal system as just another stage, and the party treats it as just another fundraising email, the rule of law becomes the punchline. Carville's point is that once it's funny, it's already fragile. Now, I know some of you are going to say, but all politicians punch. True. The difference here is that Carville isn't just punching, he's diagramming. He's taking the fog that surrounds Trump and blowing it out of the room.
Even when coaxed otherwise by his Fox News allies. No, he really means it. He means dictator, he means American enemies, he means abuse of power.
Well, I'm first of all going to say, you're exactly right. Trump goes out and he says, I'm going to use the military to arrest my political enemies. Then the Mike Johnsons and the Lindsey Grahams and the Wall Street Journal editorial, they said, oh no, that's not what he really meant. Then he comes back and he says, yeah, that's exactly what I really meant. And you know what's going to happen? You correctly pointed it out. If he wins, he's going to say, I told people I was going to do this. I have the legitimacy of an election behind me. And you know what? He will have a point. Because if I do 5 interviews a day and answer 20 questions, 18 of them are going to be about polling. We've become a nation of polling analysts. And my point is, it's 48-48. He says, I'm going to get rid of the Constitution. I don't think we should get rid of the Constitution. Why don't you just go out and report what he's saying that he's going to do? And they keep saying he doesn't mean that, and he keeps saying, no, I mean that. I'm saying what I mean. And that point that you made, I think, is spot on. And people say, what's at stake in this election? Okay, the Constitution's at stake. The whole idea of I don't know, what do you call it, a constitutional republic, or, you know, whatever highbrow people call it, the idea that we live under a set of laws is literally at risk, and he's telling you that.
He reminds you that populism means helping people at the bottom, not helping donors at the top. That real freedom means a woman and her doctor, not a politician and his base. That a president's job in a crisis is to lead, not to blame. You don't have to be a Democrat to hear that and think, that's a fair test. So tell me in the comments, which test matters most to you in 2024? Competence in crisis, respect for institutions, or basic honesty about policy? Don't just say all of the above. Rank them. I'll pin thoughtful answers.
What do you worry about vote tampering in the midterms? Do you worry about Donald Trump and Stephen Miller and some of these types monkeying around with the midterms and the way we do elections in this country? I mean, with what they're trying to pull these days, they don't want accountability. They don't want Democrats getting the gavels in the House and the Senate, be able to hold hearings and start impeachment proceedings and so on. I mean, you worry about that, James?
In the short word, yes. In the longer word, very. Okay, and I don't put anything past him. Nothing. To try to call the election off, to do
anything you can. He can think of things like that we can't, because we're not accustomed to thinking like that. We always assume there's going to be an election. In your case, how do I cover the election? In my case, how do I affect the election? And we don't think about it. This is a whole new thing. People come to me all the time and say, James, I'm really scared. I said, you should be. You have every reason to be scared. Don't kid yourself.
This is scary shit.
That's really scary. Yeah, really scary.
Yeah. And he's already tried to steal one election before. So, I mean, what's to say he's not going to try to steal more?
This will even be more, because he's seeing this coming. He's going to see this coming. And he's going to try to think of something to extricate himself from it.
If you found this breakdown useful, subscribe for more fact-based analysis with a little Cajun-level spice, and share this with one person who thinks politics is just a reality show. Then tell me below, what's the single most persuasive case you've heard for or against Trump that didn't rely on personality, but on outcomes? I'm going to feature the most substantive comments in our next video. Thanks for watching, for thinking, and for keeping one foot planted in the real world while the carnival whirls around us.